Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Mattia, and I was asked to come here and speak to you about how to become better financially prepared, more financially empowered during this very difficult time in your life. I've been working with widows for over 20 years, and I've been doing research and presenting. In fact, this year I've done at least a dozen presentations to financial services firms, trying to help other financial advisors become more confident in how to support widows. And I've also presented to several financial planning types of associations. And my research has been recently published. As a matter of fact, it's been published in one of the major journals of financial planning this current month on how to support widows. And why widows? I mean, widowhood is such a difficult time. It's a key stressful time in an individual's life where you're going to be looking for support from other individuals. And sometimes you'll find out that married friends are often distant. Other friends simply just don't know what to say. Your family may not be local, and maybe you don't have the right trusted advisors to support you. And so, of course, I want to urge you to look for the right trusted types of advisors who can support you. But even if you cannot locate a good trusted advisor, I want to encourage you to also do the work to become financially secure in your own right. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things to develop some confidence. I want to first focus on what financial empowerment is all about and why it will help you become more financially secure. I want to just discuss some of the major statistics around widowhood and let you know you're not alone. I want to talk about grief and how it affects decisions so that you can be better prepared. Also, we want to discuss the stages of widowhood and how you can identify where you are in those stages and what you should be focusing on during each stage. And lastly, I just want to talk about some of the pitfalls and hopefully prevent you from entering into them. They're very common and we see it all the time. So hopefully we can help you avoid those pitfalls. So let's start first by talking about financial empowerment, which is a subjective construct. If you look at the literature, there's a lot that's written around financial empowerment. But overall, what I found in the literature is that it focuses on three main components. First of all, it focuses on financial literacy, having the financial knowledge, the skills to make the important decisions in your life. That's what financial literacy is all about. But then it also includes financial attitude, which is associated with financial knowledge, but it is linked to knowledge, but it is also has to do with the motivation to actually apply those skills and that knowledge. And then the last component is financial well-being. And in this context, when we say financial well-being, what we're talking about are your coping skills, your ability to be resilient so that you can navigate through this very, very difficult time. Now, the thing about financial empowerment is that you can be financially secure based upon your own financial empowerment, or you can be financially secure based upon somebody else's financial empowerment. Marriage allows both spouses to share in each other's financial empowerment. And the problem is with that it ceases when the person who is financially empowered is no longer available. And so what self-financial empowerment does is it allows you to always retain that financial security. It allows you to always know that the best decisions are being made on your behalf. And so what I want to try to encourage you to think about as you're going through this process, there's a lot of other places you could go to talk about the emotional and other types of counseling aspects of the process of going through widowhood. We want to understand those components, but then bring it into how do we address our financial lives. Okay, so I promised you some shocking statistics, and that's what I'm going to give you. Firstly, there will be, this is a quiz. I want you to take the quiz with me and see how you do. There will soon be 13 million widows in the US, with nearing 1 million added each year. Is that true or false? You're right, it's true. Some people refer to this as the widow tsunami. It's a fast growing demographic and a group of individuals who definitely need support. The mean age a wife becomes a widow, what do you think that is? I got this wrong the first time I looked at this. The answer is 59. It's actually a young group. Now, in financial planning, we plan out for individuals to live to be 100 years old. Some people are living even further than that. So that means that a widow could easily last in life for 40 years, where she's financially responsible for herself. And so it's important to know that this could go on for a long time, which is why you need that financial empowerment. Next, half of women over age 65 live blank more years after their husband dies. The answer to that is 15. Again, why she needs financial support, why you need financial support. True or false, 70% of baby boomer wives will outlive their husbands. 80% of women will be single at death. That is true. On average, only blank percent of widows aged 55 to 64 remarry. By age 65, only blank percent remarry. Conversely, a widower typically remarries within 2 or 3 years after his wife's death. I got this wrong. I was very surprised on this. On average, only 8% of widows aged 55 to 64 remarry, and by age 65, it's only 2%. True or false, widowed female seniors outnumber widowed males by more than 4 to 1. That's true. We see that in every nursing home throughout the country. There's more women than men. And lastly, true or false, widows feel less secure about financial matters after the death of their spouse. Well, that's true too, but it's important to know why. The first is, as I mentioned before, oftentimes a lot of times women will delegate the financial decision making to their spouse. And so after their spouse is no longer here, they are now feeling vulnerable. But there's a second reason, and it's important for you to recognize this. There are two sides of money. The first is the technical side, which is what all financial advisors have been trained in, or should have been trained in, I should say. And the second is the psychological side, which oftentimes will create some problems. It'll kick in big time. Oftentimes, when we talk to widowed clients, we'll see them have a combination of these various emotions that I have here on the slide. Feeling forgetful, feeling numb, feeling overwhelmed, feeling anxious. All of these emotions, we see it often, and it's very, very common when somebody's going through such a traumatic transition such as this. Now, there are different reasons for that. The biggest reason is actually a biological reason. What happens when somebody is going through significant stress is that their neocortex, the side of their brain that does all the reasoning, shuts down. And the limbic system, which controls our emotions, and the reptilian complex, they kick in big time. They just completely take over. And so one of the things that I want to caution you at this time while you're going through the grief of loss is not to make any irrevocable decisions. There's no reason to rush things through because you may not actually be in the state of mind where you're really going to be able to process what the choices are rationally. There's a lot of work that's been done around transition theory. And this is one depiction that I thought was very interesting. John Fisher created this transition curve where he shows how people first start out feeling very, very anxious, having a lot of fear and feeling guilt, maybe even some denial and some depression. And that goes on for a while. And then they hit kind of this bottoming out point, and then they start coming out of it, where they start accepting their new life and moving forward. And we see this curve happen throughout all transitions, whether it is the death of a spouse, whether it is somebody that's relocating, lost their job, going through a divorce. All kinds of transitions are very, very similar. In fact, the Financial Transition Institute depicts it this way. They've broken up, the literature breaks up these different stages into 4 sections, where you first have the anticipation stage, which is the event hasn't actually happened yet, but you know it's about to. Then there's the ending stage, and that is the time, the days, the weeks, the months immediately following the death of the spouse. We then have the passage stage, and finally the new normal, where life begins to look different. And it's not that anybody forgets their spouse, for sure, but you can start seeing how your new life is going to evolve over time. So again, you know, these 4 stages. In the anticipation stage, we say this is also the preparation stage. If in fact you've been given the gift of learning that your spouse is about to die, and I know it doesn't seem like a gift, but it is a gift in a way that you can start preparing yourself emotionally, mentally, financially, and even saying goodbye. So there is, in essence, a gift here. A lot of people don't have that gift. They move immediately into the ending stage. They weren't given that preliminary signal. And in the ending stage, that is the grieving stage. That is where the grief is just so intense. We then move into the passage stage, which is the grief is still there, but it's now subsiding. It's not just the only thing in your mind. It's more in the back of your mind. And finally, that transformation stage, where you can begin to live life again. And all people pass through these 4 stages. Some people spend more time in the different stages than others. There aren't any fine boundaries around each of these stages, and people can bounce back and forth, where you think that you've passed through the ending stage and you're now in that growth stage, but the next week you're back clearly in that grieving stage. So you have to be aware that these are fluid, but you want to get a sense of where you are in those stages, because it'll help you determine what types of things you should really be embarking in terms of your financial empowerment and your financial growth. Okay. So again, I'm going to go through all 4 of these stages a little bit more slowly now so we can discuss them. Again, this anticipation stage, this preparation stage, where you know something's about to happen. This is the time where you really want to start preparing yourself and thinking about what you need to do. And hopefully, if you prepare yourself enough, it's not that you're not going to go through that grieving stage with difficulty, because you possibly could, but you're at least going to have kind of your roadmap and how you're going to operate. During this time, what we oftentimes will tell a widow or a future widow is that we want to help her walk through the things she should be considering. So one of the first things you probably do want to do is look at those healthcare issues and understand if you need a second opinion. What are your options? And really, really flush that through. Go and talk to some people who know what your options are, so you can get clarity about what you need to do. You want to look at your end of life paperwork, medical and legal. Is there a DNR? Are there advanced care directives? All the financial work around estate planning. You want to know where it is, and hopefully it's been executed in the state that you live. If it has not, you're going to need to make sure that you get those documents updated. But then also, what do those documents actually say? What are they supposed to do? And if you don't know, you may want to take those documents to somebody who can help you go through them and understand what they mean. Uh, you probably want to spend a little time exploring your beliefs around death and figuring out whether there's some additional support that you might need, whether it be counseling or even some kind of spiritual guidance. You want to look at your financial and insurance issues. So who's paying the bills right now? Who's going to pay the bills when your spouse passes? Do you have a power of attorney? Who's going to do all that? Are there any insurance policies? Do you have those policies readily available? In fact, sometimes you can, for some terminal illnesses, you might even consider contacting the insurance company and finding out if they'll release the proceeds to you earlier, which you can then use that money to help prepare for the funeral logistics. Or you might even be able to have a last fling if your spouse is still feeling okay. You may want to talk to your spouse about their personal items like a ring or a car, and who, the sentimental items, who do they want the items to go to? And then start thinking about the funeral planning and the logistics so that when this event actually happens, you're not running around going through the grief of the entire experience while you're trying to do this very important planning. So after that stage, of course, the event happens, and now we're in this grieving stage. And this grieving stage can be very difficult. Some people say that this stage could last up to a year or even 2 years. So you need to be prepared that you may be somewhat out of commission for a significant period of time where you're feeling like you are vulnerable, like you're not in the condition to make major decisions. And if you're feeling that way, listen to your gut. Just take everything very, very slow and make sure that you think everything through. There's a couple of things that I would suggest that you do during this stage. The first is to definitely take time to reflect. Talk to somebody if you can find somebody to talk to, whether it's an advisor, whether it's a friend or a family member, and even spend some time journaling. You want to make sure that you are really feeling those emotions. Allow yourself to feel them, to deal with them. Crying is good. And, even spending time going through your mind the various experiences and stories that you've had with your spouse. Let yourself feel. Spend time allowing yourself to really experience this moment. It's very good for you. Of course, you want to take care of yourself, making sure that you get the rest you need, the nutrition, exercise, that you're doing all the things that make you feel good. One of the things that I often will tell people to do also at this time while you're journaling is jot down all those things that you're angry about or that you have regrets about. One of the things that we found in the most recent piece of research that we did, in our survey, we asked the widows, what did they have any regrets? And we found that almost half of the widows in the survey had regrets. And a lot of the regrets were items that we thought, gee, they could have been resolved. Things like, I wish we had a life insurance policy. I wish we had estate planning documents. I wish I understood the stock market. I wish I understood what bonds were. I wish I knew how much debt we had. I wish I knew where my assets were. All kinds of financially disempowered types of regrets. Jot them down. Not that you're going to do anything about them now, but we might want to do something about them later. And the other thing that you might want to spend time doing, highly recommended, is to identify all of your concerns. Just put them all down on paper, your concerns and your fears. And then what I suggest that you do, and you can do this by yourself, or if you have somebody to work with you, to go through those fears and say, is this fear, number one, realistic? or is this overblown? And secondly, what can I do about it? Is it controllable? But trying to normalize that fear so it doesn't overtake you. Usually what we found is that when people actually name their fear and normalize it, it takes all the power out of that fear. So again, highly recommend that you do that. The second thing that we recommend you do is take some time to do a financial triage. And so one of the things that happens when we're feeling that overwhelming sense of, this is not right, there's problems here, I need to take care of some things. Oftentimes what we see is widows almost feel like they have to take care of everything. Everything is a priority. Everything needs to be done. And they get themselves into a place where they're not able to even prioritize. And so what we suggest you do, another brainstorming exercise, again, you could do this in a journal or just on a piece of paper, where you write down all the things that you think need to be done. And then you take out a second piece of paper and divide it up into 3 parts where you put now and soon and later on the top. And so under the now, you'll take the items such as preparing the funeral services, requesting a leave of absence if you're working, canceling any trips that you might have planned. And then you put your soon items in the next column, which might be something that you don't do today, but you maybe need to do in the next couple of weeks or months, paying bills, figuring out how much cash you have, maybe applying for company benefits. And only later are we going to consider whether we're going to sell that second car, whether we're going to get additional help, whether we're going to roll over a 401k or a 403b, and perhaps go and update some estate planning documents. But once you get them into that now, soon, or later type of structure, we found that that can very much calm our minds and make us feel a little bit more like we have a roadmap. So I would actually say to take this and put it up on your refrigerator or somewhere where you can see it, so you identify the things that you really need to focus on now, and you have those things that you're thinking about on that paper, but you don't need to address it right now. So it keeps it all out there instead of up in your head where you're ruminating over it and worrying about it. The additional thing, so we talked about journaling and normalizing your fears and all that. We talked about prioritizing what you need to do. The third thing is oftentimes what we found is that widows get concerned over what's going to happen. Oh my, am I going to be able to get access to my funds if I need them? Do I, what if I need to travel to see my children? I was paying for my grandson's college, and can I continue to do that? Do I need to go back to work? And so you need to get a sense of really what's going on here. And oftentimes the financial advisor will pull out the asset allocation chart and they'll show you, oh, you have large cap stocks and you have bonds and this and that. That's not what you want to see right now. You want to see your money in terms of buckets. What is the money that if I need it tomorrow, I have immediate access to it? And so I usually like to talk about the 3 bucket system. That's all your cash reserves. And usually we like to see that you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 months of cash that you need in that bucket. So you want to know, what's the cash, the money that I have that's immediately available to me? What's the money that is in maybe short and intermediate bonds, other items that are accessible, that if something drastic happens, I still have access to? And then, yes, there is money put aside. I'm 59 years old. That's the average age of widowhood. And it's possible I live for a long time. So I need money invested for the long run. How much money is there? But looking at your money more in terms of how accessible it is to you will help give you some peace of mind. And hopefully, if you've been doing the proper planning all along, your money should be able to be organized in this fashion fairly easily, so you feel that level of confidence. Okay, so assuming that you go through this grieving stage and you're now at a place where the grief is still there, but you're starting to come out of it and you're starting to feel more able to make decisions and to move forward, you're now in the growth stage. You're now in this passage stage. And so this is the time where you can start actually planning your future. And so I have a couple of to-dos in this stage as well. The first thing I'd like to suggest is that this is a time where you might want to start considering putting together a comprehensive plan. Now, you may have gone to a financial planner or a financial advisor and they wanted to start this during your grieving stage. Hopefully they did not do that, because what I found is when women are going through that grieving stage, they are in no state of mind to start putting together a comprehensive financial plan. You know, the financial statements, the cash flow statement and the balance sheet and all that. You should not be asked to do that. Only once you've now come out of that deep grieving stage can you start looking at these types of things. And I highly recommend you doing it. You may have done a comprehensive plan with your spouse a few months ago even, but now your life is possibly different. Your role, your in life, possibly even your purpose in life has changed. Certainly your trajectory of what you may want to do with your life has changed. So now is the time to start thinking about, what are my values? What are my goals? How do I want to spend my time and my money? And that is all the type of questioning that goes into a good comprehensive financial plan. You also may want to go back to your notes that you took in your journal when you were first going through your deep grieving stage, and looking at some of those regrets. Some of those regrets may point you to items that you might want to resolve. So those ladies in that survey that I just told you about, where they expressed all these regrets, I wonder how many of them said, I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to make sure that I now have an estate plan. I'm going to make sure that I understand what the stock market is all about. I'm going to actually correct that so that I don't get myself into this place a second time. I think that now's the time for us to go back and fix that so that we don't have a do-over. So the time to learn, and even time to actually get engaged and start participating in your financial decisions. And then the last thing that I'd like you to start thinking about doing during this stage, and I know some of you that are earlier on may be saying, how dare she say this? But at some point you may actually find somebody else that you want to get involved with, whether you start dating or, what you're going to be doing. And so you might want to be considering, what are the money issues that you need to think about with a new partner. And so, that survey that I told you about, where we did the research, one of the things that we asked them was, did they have any, by the way, this group of widows actually went through the 4 stages, and then they found somebody and were now remarried. So they went through the whole into the new normal transformation stage, and they're now remarried. And we asked them, okay, did you plan for having any of these documents before you remarried? And by the way, a lot of these women had financial planners, and I was really shocked, because out of these 8 documents that they might have considered having in place, the average number of these documents that they had in place was 1. And I would say that, a lot of these documents are really important. I mean, I don't know about a prenuptial agreement or a cohabitation agreement, but the rest of them are definitely important. And you might actually want to consider those documents as well. So going through and figuring out what kind of documents you want to have in place in a new relationship would be very important. The second thing that we asked in the survey was, what kinds of conversations did you have with this person before you remarried? And out of these 10 different types of discussions that these women could have had, the average number of discussions was 5. So 5 out of these 10 they had. When I look at these 10 items, there's not one of these items that that I would not consider having with somebody that I was planning on marrying. So again, thinking about what types of documents, what kinds of conversations should I have going into a new relationship so that I feel empowered, so that I'm engaged in my financial decisions and the decisions that I'm going to be making with this new partner. Really, really important. Okay, so the fourth stage is now in the new normal. You're now in this transformation stage where you're living life, possibly even loving life. And I know for some of you, you might think that that's never going to happen, but I want to tell you that there is a future, and you are going to eventually be in this spot. And it's not that you didn't love your spouse or anything like that. It's that, your spouse certainly would want you to move forward and to continue to enjoy life. So you're going to get into this spot. And once you do get into the spot, there may be some even more advanced things that you want to think about in terms of financial planning, whether it's charitable giving or so forth. But at this time, especially, this is when I really want you to start saying, I'm going to become financially empowered. So that I'm never in a vulnerable position again, because it's very possible, whether I remarry or don't remarry, that I could potentially be in this situation again. And I want to make sure that I have all of my ducks in a row. So, the idea of educating yourself, motivating yourself to achieve your goals, actually structuring it so that you actually achieve your goals, partnering and collaborating potentially with a good financial advisor, planner who you can work with, or with somebody else that can assist you, not delegating it to that person, but actually participating in the financial decision making. Giving yourself some organizing all of that, those financial decisions, and trying to simplify. The financial planning and financial decision making does not have to be so complex. If it's complex, you probably don't even need to get involved in it. Try to organize and simplify as much as you can. Make sure that you're watching out for your best interests, your interests. And even when I tell people to look for a good financial planner, I do highly recommend you go with somebody that is fee only, because a fee only financial planner will work for you 100% of the time as a fiduciary, always putting your interests first, and always making sure that their recommendations are unbiased and objective. Because they're fee only, they don't have any products to sell. They don't receive any commissions or referral fees. So their recommendations don't have any reason to be given other than that they're the right recommendation. You want to make sure, again, you're engaging in all your decisions and you're taking responsibility for yourself, because only you truly know what is best for you. Okay, so that's the 4 stages. And you'll notice that, but I'm sorry, I went too fast. On those 4 stages, there's an arrow pointing down to feel financially secure all along the way. I don't want you to feel financially secure at the end of the 4th stage. I want you to feel financially secure every step of the way. And so that's why there are activities and things that I want you to do during each stage, so that you're constantly feeling secure and like everything's going to be okay. This next little piece that I promised you, where I was going to go through some of the common pitfalls that we see with widows. The first one, I talked about the fact that oftentimes, especially during the grief stage, you're feeling overwhelmed. There is no fire. Do not let anybody push you into anything. You don't have to rush with any decisions. Take your time. Really important. We've seen widows allow themselves to be pushed into a decision that is irrevocable and not be able to get out of it. You don't need to do that. If you don't understand it, don't go with it. You do need to be aware of financial predators. Widows are a target, and oftentimes, I'll tell, even if you don't have a financial planner or advisor, tell anybody that approaches you with a financial discussion of how they think you should spend your money or give your money away. Let them know. Just say, I'll take that into consideration. I have a financial advisor and we'll get back to you. And just keep repeating that over and over again. You don't have to say no. Just tell them that you're going to be thinking about that, you're going to be considering that, and you'll get back to them. Don't sell the house the first year. I know that you might feel like it's too big, or it reminds you of your spouse, or there's reasons that you want to sell, but it might not even be the right decision to sell, number one. But even so, if it was the right decision, you just lost your spouse. Now you're going to be in unfamiliar surroundings. Maybe you're going to be far away from your neighbors and other support networks that you had around you. So we highly recommend that you don't make any decision to sell the house, at least in the first year, possibly two. You need to face reality. Some women will think that they're in a horrible situation where they're just fine, and vice versa. And so we want to really figure out what is the rational, realistic picture. And if you need assistance in developing that sense of reality, I highly recommend that you do reach out. There are people, whether they're a financial planner type of person or even financial coach or there's even money therapists that could help you with that. And you want to make sure that you're not a person. In this instance, it's a little bit different than the financial predator. I'm talking about children and even suitors who might be asking for some money. And the thing is that you haven't even necessarily evaluated whether you have enough to sustain your own financial needs. Let's back up first and make sure that you have enough before you start dishing out all of your money. So again, that comment, I'll take it under consideration and I'll get back to you, is always a good comment to make. And then I just wanted to mention, the ABCs. A, ask questions. Ask lots of questions. If you don't understand it, walk away. Just keep on asking. B, beware, buyer beware, just be very careful. And C, take care of yourself. You make sure that you're always doing what's in your best interest. So that's really all I have to say today. I'm trying to keep this fairly short and sweet. Since this was pre-recorded, we have no ability to do a Q&A and ask questions. So I wanted to allow you, if you would like, please feel free to send me any questions or thoughts that you have to lauram@atlasfiduciary.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions and assist you, maybe give you some guidance to help you through this very difficult period. I wish you the best. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult, but you're going to get through it, and you're going to be fine. So just take care of yourself. Biggest advice I can give. Thank you, and hope to talk to you. Bye-bye.